Asterisk the rain drummed steadily against the towering glass windows of Morrison Tech Solutions, each drop catching the amber glow of the city lights 20 floors below. Inside the executive conference room, tension filled the air like fog. Asterisk Robert Morrison, the company's CEO, sat at the head of a mahogany table that had witnessed countless boardroom battles over the past 15 years. His silver hair, usually perfectly styled, showed signs of the stress that had been building for weeks. Round the table, 12 of the company's brightest IT specialists stared at their laptops with the defeated expressions of soldiers who had fought a losing war. Asterisk gentlemen, Robert said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of a man who had built his company from nothing but a dream and a garage workspace. We've been at this for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of our clients' systems failing. 6 weeks of angry phone calls. 6 weeks of watching our reputation crumble. Asterisk David Chen, the head of IT, loosened his tie with trembling fingers. At 52, he had seen every kind of software crisis imaginable, but this system corruption was unlike anything in his 30-year career. Sir, we've tried everything. The new security update somehow corrupted our entire client management system. Every patch we apply seems to make it worse. Asterisk Robert nodded slowly. Understanding the gravity of their situation, Morrison Tech had spent 2 decades building trust with small businesses across the country, providing them with reliable, affordable IT solutions. Now, bakeries couldn't process orders, law firms couldn't access case files, and medical practices couldn't schedule appointments. Real people with real lives were depending on them. Asterisk what's our timeline looking like? Robert asked, though he dreaded the answer. Asterisk, if we can't fix this by Monday, David replied, his voice barely above a whisper. We're looking at losing 70% of our client base. Maybe more. Asterisk the room fell silent except for the gentle patter of rain and the soft clicking of keyboards as the team continued their desperate attempts to find a solution. Asterisk 3 floors down. In the building's main lobby, Margaret Maggie Sullivan balanced a large insulated bag on her hip while checking the address on her phone one more time. At 24, she had been delivering food for a quick bite delivery for almost 2 years now, working her way through community college one semester at a time. Asterisk the security guard behind the marble desk looked up from his crossword puzzle. Little late for a delivery, isn't it, Miss? Asterisk Maggie smiled warmly, the kind of genuine smile that reminded people of their daughters or granddaughters. Mr. Morrison ordered dinner for his whole team up on 20. Sounds like they're having a long night. Asterisk that they are, the guard said, buzzing her through to the elevators. Been working round the clock for weeks now. Good of someone to think about feeding them. Asterisk as the elevator climbed. Maggie reflected on how many late-night deliveries she had made to office buildings just like this one. She had always been curious about the lives behind these corporate towers, the people who worked late into the night, driven by purposes she could only imagine. Asterisk the elevator doors opened with a soft chime onto the 20th floor, where the Morrison Tech logo gleamed softly in brushed steel letters. Maggie followed the signs toward the conference room, her sneakers silent on the plush carpeting. Asterisk through the glass walls, she could see the meeting in progress. 12 men in expensive suits hunched over laptops, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of their screens. At the head of the table sat an older gentleman with kind eyes and silver hair, listening intently as someone explained something with animated hand gestures. Asterisk Maggie knocked gently on the glass door, and the silver-haired man looked up. His face, lined with the wisdom of years and the weight of responsibility, broke into a grateful smile as he waved her in. Asterisk, you must be our lifesaver, Robert said, standing to greet her. I'm Robert Morrison. I hope we didn't keep you waiting too long. Asterisk, not at all. Mr. Morrison, Maggie replied, setting down her delivery bag. I'm Maggie. I've got your order right here. 12 deluxe burger meals, extra fries, and those chocolate chip cookies you requested. Asterisk as she began unpacking the warm containers. The aroma of comfort food filled the conference room. For the first time in hours, the team members looked up from their screens, remembering they were human beings who needed more than just caffeine to survive. Asterisk, this smells incredible, said James Fletcher, the youngest programmer on the team. I didn't realize how hungry I was. Asterisk, Maggie smiled as she distributed the meals. My grandmother always said that problems seem smaller on a full stomach. Though looking at all these computers, I'm guessing you folks are dealing with something pretty complicated. Asterisk, Robert nodded, accepting his burger with genuine appreciation. System crisis. We're the IT support for hundreds of small businesses, and our software has been corrupted for weeks. We can't seem to find a fix, and time is running out. Asterisk, Maggie said softly, her expression shifting to one of genuine concern. That sounds really stressful. All those businesses depending on you. That's a lot of responsibility. Asterisk, there was something in her tone. Not pity, but understanding. That made Robert pause. In all the high-pressure meetings and crisis management sessions, no one had acknowledged the human side of their struggle quite like this young woman in a yellow delivery hoodie. Asterisk it is, he admitted. These aren't just accounts to us. They're family restaurants, corner pharmacies, small law practices, real people trying to make a living. Asterisk, Maggie finished distributing the food and began folding up her delivery bag. But instead of leaving immediately, she glanced at the wall of monitors displaying various system diagnostics and error messages. Asterisk, I hope you don't mind me asking, she said hesitantly. But what kind of corruption are you dealing with? I mean, I know I'm just a delivery driver, but I'm actually studying computer science at the community college. Asterisk, David Chen looked up from his burger, a mixture of exhaustion and politeness in his expression. It's a cascade failure in our client management system. Started with a security update that somehow corrupted our database architecture. Every fix we apply seems to trigger new problems. Asterisk, Maggie nodded thoughtfully, her eyes still on the monitors. Have you tried rolling back to a clean backup and rebuilding the security protocols layer by layer? Asterisk, of course, David replied, though not unkindly. That was our first approach, but the corruption seems to have infected our backup systems as well. Asterisk, what about the shadow logs? Maggie asked quietly. Asterisk, the room went silent. Every head turned toward the young woman in the delivery uniform. Asterisk, I'm sorry, David said slowly. What did you say? Asterisk, Maggie's cheeks flushed pink. I probably shouldn't have said anything. It's just, in one of my database management classes, our professor showed us this technique for when corruption spreads to backup systems. Most systems keep shadow transaction logs that run parallel to the main logs. They're usually hidden and require manual access. But if the corruption happened after a certain point, the shadow logs might still be clean. Asterisk, the IT team exchanged glances. After 6 weeks of trying every conventional solution, they had overlooked one of the most basic recovery protocols. Asterisk, David's fingers flew across his keyboard. James, can you help me access the shadow log directory? Asterisk, I'm on it, James replied, his own exhaustion forgotten. Asterisk, for the next 20 minutes, Maggie stood quietly in the corner, watching as the team followed her suggestion. She had intended to leave after the brief conversation, but something about the intensity of their work, the hope in their voices, kept her rooted in place. Asterisk, there, David announced, his voice filled with wonder. There are the shadow logs, and they're completely clean. The corruption never touched them. Asterisk, how long will it take to rebuild from these? Robert asked asterisk if we work through the night. We could have a working system by morning. Asterisk, Robert turned to Maggie, his eyes bright with something that looked very much like tears. Young lady, what you just suggested, it might have saved our company. Asterisk, Maggie shook her head modestly. I just remembered something from class. You would have figured it out eventually. Asterisk, no, Robert said firmly. We had tunnel vision. Sometimes it takes fresh eyes, a different perspective, to see what's right in front of us. Asterisk, he paused, studying her face with the keen attention of a man who had spent decades evaluating talent. Asterisk, Maggie, what are you studying exactly? Asterisk, computer information systems, she replied. I'm hoping to transfer to a full-year school next year. Maybe get into database administration or systems analysis. Asterisk, Robert glanced round the room at his team, all of whom were now working with renewed energy, implementing the solution that their delivery girl had suggested. Asterisk, how would you feel about a different path? He asked gently. We have an internship program here at Morrison Tech, full-time during the summer, part-time during the school year. It pays better than food delivery, and you'd be working with real client systems, learning from some of the best IT professionals in the city. Asterisk, Maggie's eyes widened. Mr. Morrison, that's incredibly generous, but I couldn't possibly. Asterisk, you just saved our company. Robert interrupted softly. More than that, you saved the livelihoods of hundreds of small business owners who depend on us. If that's not the kind of problem-solving ability we want on our team, I don't know what is. Asterisk, David looked up from his computer. Maggie, if you're interested, I'd be honored to mentor you. What you spotted tonight, that's the kind of thinking that comes from genuine understanding, not just memorizing textbook solutions. Asterisk 6 months later, on a warm spring morning, Maggie sat in the same conference room, though now she wore a professional blazer instead of a delivery uniform. She was presenting her analysis of client system vulnerabilities to the same team that had once seen her as just a delivery girl. Asterisk, Robert watched from his seat at the head of the table, remembering that rainy night when kindness and curiosity had led to an unexpected solution. Morrison Tech had not only recovered from their crisis, but had grown stronger, implementing new backup protocols and disaster recovery systems based on Maggie's suggestions. Asterisk, our recommendation for the multi-tier shadow logging system is brilliant, James said as Maggie concluded her presentation. It would have prevented our entire crisis last year. Asterisk, after the meeting, as the team filed out, Robert approached Maggie. Asterisk, how are your classes going? He asked. Asterisk, really well, she replied, her confidence evident in both her posture and her voice. I'm transferring to State University in the fall, but I'll continue working here part-time. This experience, it's been more valuable than anything I could have learned in a classroom. Asterisk, Robert nodded, understanding the transformation he had witnessed, Maggie, there's something I learned that night you first walked into our crisis. We had 12 brilliant IT professionals working on our problem, but we were all thinking the same way, approaching it from the same angles. Asterisk, he paused, looking out at the city skyline where thousands of small businesses were thriving, their systems running smoothly thanks to the work being done in this very building. Asterisk, sometimes the most important solutions come from the most unexpected places, from people who see things differently, who ask different questions. That night, you weren't just delivering our dinner, you were delivering a fresh perspective that we desperately needed. Asterisk, Maggie smiled, the same warm, genuine smile that had first made Robert think of daughters and granddaughters. Asterisk, my grandmother always said that we should pay attention to the people around us. Because you never know who might have exactly what you need. I guess that works both ways. Asterisk as they stood together in the conference room where it all began. Robert reflected on the lesson that Maggie had unknowingly taught him and his entire company. Success wasn't just about having the most advanced systems or the most experienced team. Sometimes it was about staying open to wisdom from unexpected sources, about treating every person with dignity and respect, about remembering that the best solutions often come from the heart as much as from the mind. Asterisk, in a world that often moved too fast to notice the delivery drivers, the janitors, the students working their way through school, Maggie had reminded them that brilliance and insight could be found in the most unlikely places, asterisk, and sometimes, if you were very fortunate, that brilliance might just walk through your door carrying a bag of burgers and the key to solving your biggest problems.